like to call the meeting to order. If you would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, are there any additions or deletions to this evening's agenda?
Yes, tonight we are going to add action item F, which is resignation from the police department. We are moving action item D to the front of new business, and we will do our presentation with Dr. John Daly in front of public comment tonight.
Thank you. Are there any corrections to the minutes of the meeting from March 16th, 2015? Hearing no corrections, all those in favor of approving the minutes from the meeting of March 16th, 2015 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Those minutes are approved. We move on to reports. I have a couple things to report. Genesee County Planning Commission is having their household hazardous waste collection event. The date is Saturday, May 2nd at Carmen Ainsworth High School from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. They're also going to be collecting at it's on Court Street in the city. Is that at the waste treatment plant, right? Anybody? Is that where it's usually,
I believe so, yeah.
it's right across from Consumers Energy. That's where they always have it, but they move the satellite sites around. So May 2nd, they'll be collecting household hazardous waste at the Carmen Ainsworth High School from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And the items they'll take are what we don't pick up in our trash. And if you have any questions on what items can be picked up or that you can drop off, you can contact Genesee County Recycling, Genesee County Planning Commission, and you can go to our website and we'll have a link that takes you there to let you know what items you can bring. Things like tires. You can't throw tires out in the regular trash, but they'll take tires. So also I wanted to let you know that Amterra, our garbage contractor, is picking up yard waste. It started last week, so it's time to put your yard waste out. They'll collect that on the same day that they collect your recycling and your waste. It's Thursday morning. Please have your waste out by the curb at 7 a.m. And lastly, I wanted to mention that, is this open to the public, the auction for Carmen Ainsworth? You know? You don't know. So, let's see. There is a Carmen Ainsworth Education Foundation community auction for kids. I guess it is open to the public. They're honoring Mrs. Peggy Scaff for 21 years of service to the Carmen Ainsworth Board of Education. It'll be Friday, April 17th, 5:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. at Rigero's. And it's $25 donation per person, and then they're going to have auction items. And there's a lot of people from around town that are donating the items for auction, and then if you're interested, you can participate in the auction. But the event is to benefit the Carmen Ainsworth Education Foundation, and it's a community auction for kids, Friday, April 17th.
What time?
5:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. at Rigero's. And they're asking that you prepay. So you can contact the Carmen Ainsworth Community Schools at 591-8246, and we'll also have this on our website. That's all I have for this evening. Madam Clerk, do you have a report for us this evening?
I have a couple things to mention. Saturday, May 16th, from 10 to 12 here at 1490 South Dye Road, we will have shred date, which means if Flint Township residents have private documents, old tax papers that they want to disperse, they can bring, and I always recommend 2 paper boxes to the township. So again, it's 1490 South Dye Road here at the township from 10 to 12, May 16th. Also, I'd like to mention that the election, the May 5th special election, is right around the corner, and we do have our absentee voter ballots here at the township from Monday through Thursday from 8 a.m. until 5:30 p.m. As of right now, we have issued 1,526 requests for absentee ballots. 638 ballots have been returned with an approximate of 48% return on those absentee ballots. So if you need an absentee ballot, come see us, and we'll be happy to provide that for you. We have two proposals on the ballot. One is the road millage renewal here, a local renewal for Flint Township. The other is the state proposal, 15-1, and Dr. Daly will be speaking in regards to that tonight. That's it.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam Treasurer, do you have a report for us this evening?
I would like it noted in the minutes that in the back of your agenda book that we have the quarterly reports, and a motion to pay the bills, please.
There is a motion to pay the bills. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, any questions on the motion to pay the bills? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call, please, on paying the bills.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
Ms. Fidelli?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Porch, yes. Mr. Castle?
Yes.
Mr. Menudas?
Yes.
Mrs. Byrd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Do we have any trustee reports this evening?
Yes, I just want to announce again that Flint Township did receive the grant for the scrap tire drop-off. Once I receive the contract from the state, we'll be able to announce a date, but that will be coming soon.
Thank you. And we'll have that on our website also, flinttownship.org. Any other trustee reports? No? Hearing none, we'll move on to general reports. Chief Sippert, do you have a report for us this evening?
I do. I just wanted to give the board an update on a recent increase that we received in some grant funding. The Office of Highway Safety and Planning infuses money to the various counties around the state for operating while impaired enforcement and also for seatbelt enforcement. And for this fiscal year, we originally were awarded $100,000 for operating while impaired enforcement and $70,000 for safety belt enforcement, for a total of $170,000. That's divided up amongst departments here in Genesee County. They now have increased that award to an additional $91,000 for a total of $191,000 for operating while impaired enforcement, and they increased $70,000 in seatbelts. So that makes it, the new countywide total is $261,000. And that doesn't include the state police. They're awarded funds separately from local departments. But the funding will provide for 26 days of safety belt enforcement and 32 days for operating while impaired details for enforcement in Genesee County. And those dates are usually scheduled around major motoring holidays like Memorial Day, Independence Day, and Labor Day, and at various times throughout the year. And we act as the fiduciary. Lieutenant Batinkoff is the coordinator of this project. But the departments that participate here in Genesee County include Burton Police, Clayton Township Police, us, Genesee County Sheriff Department, Genesee Township, Grand Blanc Township, Mount Morris Township, Thetford Township, and the University of Michigan Flint Police Department.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Chief, what's the progress of hiring more policemen?
We are working, as you know, we hired 2, and we're working on getting additional ones, but we only have so many training officers, so we are limited how many people we have. We'll have one of our candidates that we hired in January will be graduating from the police academy in May, so they will be coming out on the street. So I hope to have another 2 to hire by June or July.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chief Sippert. Chief Ringwalski, do you have a report for us this evening?
Yeah, since we last met, we had 2 structure fires. One was in a home down here off of Dye Road. Significant damage there. Excellent attack by our guys to control it, keep it within the bedroom area. Second fire was over on Hunter's Ridge. Again, a cooking fire. Significant damage in that unit also. We also had a serious extrication on I-75 from a wrong-way driver. 2 vehicles severely damaged. Both passengers were drivers that survived. Again, because we had multiple units coming on scene, we were able to be working on 2 different cars at the same time. Lastly, I want to remind everybody about carbon monoxide. Just recently, it was on the news tonight, a family of 8 died in their home from carbon monoxide. A carbon monoxide detector would have prevented this from happening in their home. It was because they were heating the house, they had no electricity, and they had a generator going. So I want to remind, we don't talk often about that. Mostly we talk about smoke detectors, but the significance of having a carbon monoxide detector, and remind people that we do have those, some of them still available for people in certain areas that are eligible. Thank you.
And, pardon me?
I want to go ahead and add to that, to the low to moderate income areas. And if they're wondering where those low to moderate income areas are, I'd be happy to answer that. My number is 600-3212. You can give me a call and I can help you out with that.
So for a carbon monoxide
monoxide
and a
smoke
smoke detector, if you're in the low to moderate income, there's still a few available, and you could call the clerk's office if you're interested in receiving one, if you qualify.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Tucker, do you have a report for us this evening?
Nothing this evening, but I would like to remind people, if you are using a generator, please have the generator outside. It needs to be well vented. Do not have it in the home.
And that goes for the garage, too. The garage door shouldn't be completely down, right?
If they have it in the garage, they should have the door open so it can vent out, so that smoke can vent out.
Thank you. So, as we stated already, we're going to move the presentation up before public comment, and I'd like to introduce Dr. John Daly, Director and Manager of the Genesee County Road Commission, and he's going to speak on the statewide ballot proposal 15-1.
Thank you, Supervisor Miller. Before I talk about Prop 1, I would like to add a little bit to the comments that were made by your chief and Director Tucker about carbon monoxide poisoning. If you've never encountered that, you have to realize that it is particularly lethal. If your hemoglobin has a choice between carbon monoxide and oxygen O2 molecules, it'll take the carbon monoxide first and displace the oxygen molecules. The chemical bond between the carbon monoxide and the hemoglobin is particularly strong. It's not uncommon in carbon monoxide cases for it to take as long as 10 days to bring the levels of poisoning in the blood system down to where the oxygen levels are normal. So it is nothing to be messed with. It is tasteless, odorless, colorless, and so you really need a detector in order to deal with it. Thank you for inviting me to talk about Prop 1. I wish I had a prettier subject to talk to you about. Proposition 1 is, you'll see it on the May 5th ballot. The citizens will at that time have an opportunity to vote on Proposition 2015-1, a statewide ballot proposal aimed at road construction and maintenance. Currently, under Michigan's Constitution, sales tax paid at the pump on gasoline and diesel go primarily to schools and local governments, not to roads. The passage of Proposition 2015-1 would change this dynamic by first removing 3 taxes on fuel: the current 6% sales tax on gasoline and diesel, the additional 19 cents per gallon on tax on gasoline, and the additional 15 cent per gallon tax on diesel, replacing all of those taxes with a flat 14.9% wholesale tax paid directly by gas and diesel stations, increasing certain vehicle registration fees and dedicating all the revenues from the wholesale tax on fuel and registration fees to transportation. If passed, 2015 is expected to generate $1.2 billion annually for road construction and maintenance, and $116 million annually for public transportation, to replace the revenues to schools and local governments lost by dedicating taxes paid at the fuel pump to transportation. Proposition 2015 would increase the sales and use tax on non-fuel taxable items from 6 to 7%. If passed, this is expected to replace the lost revenues as well as generate annually an additional $200 million for schools, $1,100 million for local governments, and $173 million of general fund revenues. Legislation tied to this proposal would provide tax relief to certain low and middle income taxpayers through earned income tax credit. Passage of Proposition 2015 would also require warranty protections, competitive bidding, and performance-based systems for road construction and maintenance problems. The proposal raises, on a phased-in basis, $1.2 billion of new revenues for roads and therefore provides a long-term solution to the state's road and construction and maintenance problem. The tax revenues generated at the pump should be used for transportation needs, not for local schools and local governments. The proposal provides over $300 million in new revenues for school and local government. And low and middle income taxpayers will get tax relief if this passes. I'm not here to tell you whether you should vote on Prop 1 or not. I'm just simply here to talk a little bit about it. That was a synopsis of it. My concern is that, and if you haven't had an opportunity to read this was in the Sunday Flint Journal. This is the MLive statewide proposal or position, editorial position on Prop 1. And they give a pretty good synopsis of it. So I would encourage everybody before they vote to take a look at that editorial, because it really does present some good arguments. My principal concern is, in 17 years, since the time we passed the last fuel tax increase, this is the furthest that we have gotten to solving the revenue problem that's associated with Michigan's roads and bridges. Prop 1 is not pretty. It's probably medium-grade sausage out of Lansing at the best. And I think you have to consider it as omnibus legislation. In other words, back in the 1780s, when the state legislatures of the original states were considering the ratification of the U.S. Constitution, I'm not sure that each legislature agreed with every phrase that was inside the U.S. Constitution. The question is two things. At the end of the day, are you better or are you worse off? Second of all, what happens if it doesn't pass? Can you live with the status quo? We can't live with the status quo anymore. We're starting to reach a point where the cost to repair the roads is changing from linear to an exponential cost increase. Let me give you some examples. This year, Michigan had 5% of its roads that went 5% additional, that went from good to bad to poor condition. That's the highest increase in 7 years. In 2016, if you project those numbers, the trend into the future, that number will go to about 7%. As I indicated earlier, my principal concern is there's no alternative plan. I have been working this issue for the better part of 15 years, and I will tell you that there are people that have ideas, but those ideas are vague. They have very little substance, and they're certainly not contained in any type of legislation. And so if someone presents to you that they have an alternative plan, I would say hold them to the same standards you do with Prop 1. Where is the money going to come from? How much money? Is this money that's going to be available on a reoccurring basis? Because hopefully, if whatever we do, we need to fix this problem permanently. And what is the feasibility of this getting through the legislature? The reason this package is structured like this is it took a 2/3 vote of the legislature, remember, to get this on the ballot. And my concern again is that I don't believe we should look for a change in performance from the legislature. I think they've shown clearly for the last 17 years this is not an issue they want to deal with. And they will take extraordinary steps to avoid it. And no one can show me a single shred of evidence that indicate, other than hope, that the legislature will deal with this. I think you have to be careful about what you ask for, and asking for this to be rejected is I don't understand this. I mean, one of the criticisms is, well, it doesn't generate enough money to fix the roads. And the implication is, well, it's not asking for enough money. I've never heard of a tax that the grounds for rejection should be that it's not asking for enough money. It's not something, there are things in here that frankly I would not have put in. And if I had my way about it, I would remove them. But it is what it is. And the discussion and the evaluation that you have for this particular piece of legislation needs to be based on what the needs are for the resident of Michigan and not satisfying political credos. Any questions that I might be able to answer for you?
No questions? You have a question, Trustee Rick? Down this way, any questions?
John, I've been hearing a lot of complaints that most of this money is not being used, not going to be used to fix the roads. And I think that's a wrong conclusion, but I think some people come to that conclusion because of the confusing way that the proposal is written. And maybe you could explain that a little bit, what the extra for schools and local is, and why it is we had to replace some of the taxes that were to go to schools and local because of the situation with the gas tax.
Well, it's primarily,
and so forth.
Michigan is, as we speak, Michigan is one of 6 states that currently charges sales tax on fuel. And as you're aware, none of that goes to roads. It goes to principally to K through 12 and community colleges and corrections. The reason this package is complex is because one of the messages that Michigan voters have said very strongly is that they wanted to see all of the taxes that were charged on fuel being used for transportation. Okay, and this takes us down that path. And currently, what I would, the increase in the fuel tax or in the sales tax is there because I'm a big supporter of road funding, but I would not want to see the roads funded at the expense of a one-for-one exchange in dollars with K through 12. I believe education is, in fact, Michigan's future. So in order to get, the reason the package is structured the way it is, I believe, is so that you don't get into a situation where if you had separate pieces of legislation, one piece passes and another one doesn't. And so you lose fiscal control of the revenue stream when you don't have them tied together. It's not easy, I agree. I would not have worded the proposed legislation like, or proposed constitutional amendment like this. Having said that, it is what it is.
Well, I think the fact is that all of the money that used to go to the schools and local governments from the gasoline taxes and sales taxes on gasoline will no longer be going there. And
That is
so
correct.
that had to be made up by part of the sales tax increase.
And that's
part of the
what-
1% needed to go back to the schools and back to local governments.
Yeah, to fill those revenue holes that would have been created by taking the sales tax away from them and dedicating it to roads and transportation items.
Any more questions?
No, that clarifies it for me.
Thank you, sir.
None on this one?
Thanks again for this opportunity, and again, I would ask you to take a look. This should be available on MLive on the computer, and that's the MLive endorsement for the Prop 1. It's got a lot of information on it that has more specificity in it, and if you have any questions after this is over, feel free to give me a call. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Appreciate you being here tonight. So we'll move on to public comment, and if you'd like to address the board, I'd ask that you come to the podium, state your name and address, and you'll be given 3 minutes to address the board.
My name is Gerald Roberts, 4487 Lindywood Drive. Got one question to ask. How come the previous gentleman wasn't limited to 3 minutes like I am? Freedom of speech. Freedom of speech. In the last meeting, our supervisor wanted to take away our freedom of speech by only having one meeting a month. Also, she wanted to make a proposal with regard to my freedom of speech, or my freedom with regard to giving people homeless on the street money that I wanted to do. 2 infringements upon my civil rights. We're going to talk about taxes tonight. And the gentleman that just was here, across the board, everything has been pro-Proposition 1, Proposition 1. Those are my tax dollars that are going out to promote this. I'm on a fixed income. I can't afford that. In that particular proposal, and I'm going to give you a little example. They say $1.2 billion. Let's take a little bit of math here. Let's take 6 times 1.2 billion, and $1 billion means it's 1,000 million dollars is $1 billion, okay? That would be $7.2 billion going into this state. In other words, for what are they doing with the $6 billion right now that they got when they raised it from 4% to 6%, and all the promises that was going to be a cure-all? In this particular proposal, you got to look for the fine print. The previous gentleman said, look in Sunday's paper. That'll tell you. If you have an $18,000 car that you want to go out and buy, that's going to cost you $180 more for that car. But here's the catch. Before, when you bought that $18,000 car, when you went to buy your license plates, it would depreciate 10%, so you'd have to pay less in your license fees. They're holding the line on that now. It's going to be, if you have a 10-year-old car, you're going to pay the license plate fees as if it's a brand new car. Is that fair? No. The sales tax that they're grouping in is going to go from 31 cents a gallon up to 41 cents a gallon, an 11-cent increase at the wholesale level that we're still going to get passed on, that we're going to get that, okay? Over and above that, the amount of money that they're going to put in schools. In other words, that's not even going to see the roads at that point. I did a little bit of right in here, and I hope I can get through this, Karen. Taxes, income tax, federal. They taxed me on my Social Security when I went to fill out my income tax. Michigan income tax, gasoline sales tax, my phone charges, federal universal service regulatory charge fee, administration charge fee, infrastructure switching fee, 9/11 charges, Michigan and Genesee County, Michigan state use tax, the federal tax. Here's on my consumer's power bill, the sterilization fee, sterilization tax, power plant sterilization, power plant general maintenance fee for power plants, low income maintenance fee, gas regulatory fee. Okay, here comes on property taxes. You got an SE tax, an SO tax, a school tax, an IDSC tax, a vocational tax, a special education tax, a MOT operating tax, and another MOT distributed tax, county operating, MTA, township roads, police here that were being already paid, fire, and then on top of that, a 3.85% increase that they just put on us. Unit operation, airport, library, paramedic, park, senior citizens, health service, veterans, Michigan State Extension, animal control, and streetlights. Don't you
Thank you,
think
Mr. Roberts.
that
Your time is
we've had
up.
enough taxes?
Your time
And
is up,
don't you
Mr.
think
Roberts.
that our people here
Please be
need
seated.
to have a fair thing?
I'm asking you to be seated, please.
Thank you, Karen.
I gave you more time than 3
You're
minutes.
going to hear from me this next meeting too, okay? Like you wanted to eliminate.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board?
Good evening. My name is John Millen. My address is 508 West Remington in Saginaw, Michigan. And I thought I'd visit this evening to speak on the other side of Proposal 15.1. As eloquent as the director was in saying he wasn't speaking in favor of it, I think it's pretty clear what his position is. I just want to point out a few things on the other side. Each of you got a copy of some information that the County Road Association distributes. I located this in the same website that had comments from Director Daley. And everything you see on this sheet that is bolded, except for the part about every vote will count May 5th, is either inaccurate or incomplete. Proposal 1 does not constitutionally guarantee that all state taxes paid at the pump go to transportation, 90% to bridges and roads. It simply puts the fuel tax on fuel. That's not a constitutional guarantee. That's statute law. They could change it tomorrow, next week, next year. So that one's wrong. It doesn't constitutionally guarantee every penny of the school aid fund goes to K through 12 education and community colleges. It's also allowed to be spent on teacher retirement funds, and we all know where retirement funding is in this state. Expect to see a lot of it go there. One of the most important things people on the same side as Mr. Daley on this issue fail to mention when they point out that the legislature cannot be expected to do any better. They have to, because if this bill were to pass, this package of bills, as written, we don't get more money for roads, we get less. They made errors when they put the bill together in the dark of night, and on the day this amendment and package of bills would pass, the next fiscal year would have $550 million less for roads unless the current legislature fixes it. So they're going to have to revisit the most important part of this, the Motor Fuels Tax Act, because that's how we work in the state legislature. We don't pass a whole new bill, we amended an old bill. And the Motor Fuels Tax Act is where the wholesale tax rate is, the distribution of it through the various highway funds. So if this passes, we immediately have to revisit the very core that everyone voting on this issue thinks we've solved. So that's another part. That is supported by analysis from the Senate Fiscal Agency, the House Fiscal Agency, and the Citizens Research Council. So it's kind of interesting that that gets glossed over by most of the pro-Proposal 1 people. The biggest problem I have is everyone's going to walk into that ballot box. Your absentee voters have already seen the ballot language, but you don't actually see the amendment. The amendment is 2 pages like this. We got 100 words. Now, I went and spoke at the Board of State Canvassers about the language you're going to see, and I stated at that meeting in Lansing, it was impossible to sum it up in 100 words. And since Mr. Daley pointed out MLive articles about it, you can look that up in MLive, February 26th. John Millen says it was an impossible task to sum it up in 100 words. I hope you consider both sides of this issue.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board?
I'm Robert Simpson from 6299 Calkins Road. I wanted to address the board because in this past year they put a new surfacing between Elms and Dye. At the time they put it in was in late August perhaps, and within 2 weeks a hole had appeared right outside of Stonehenge entrance, just east of the Stonehenge entrance. I came down to the township with my picture of it and showed it to maybe perhaps Supervisor Miller. But I don't know, I should have done some more homework before I came up here because I don't know whether the county's responsible for county roads and the state responsible for state highways and so on and so forth. But if that is paid for here at the township level, I feel like that when somebody has their job start to fall apart that fast, that they should be made to come back and make it right. In addition, besides the holes, I noticed that I want to call it the shoulders, were very short, right at the edge, they fell off, and they're already starting to break up. Now, that's only 6 months, a hard winter, but I think that if we have the responsibility, if we're hiring jobs to be done, and then the job doesn't get done right or has defect in it, those people should be forced to come back and fix their job, but nobody's come back.
Only because the construction season is only, they can't do that unless the asphalt plants are open. So there was a hole on Dye Road, and it's for access to.
Okay. I was talking about middle of September. Are they still not, can't even do it then?
Well, they were closing soon, but they're going to get to it this year. And Madam Clerk and I
Okay.
have talked about some of the other problems, and that will be addressed this construction season.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mike Tevis. I'm from 1259 Mill Creek Road. About 3 weeks ago, an incident happened with me with the police department. I know we all are aware of what's going on across the United States with the police departments in small communities where the police department is 100% white, maybe 99% white. The demographics have changed in this community in the last 15 years. We still have a white police department, and I don't know about the fire department, probably the fire department. But an incident happened with me about 3 weeks ago, 1:30 in the morning. Let me back up a moment. I have almost 40 years of police work. I'm retired from the military. I was a cop, and I had 6 years in civilian cop. So I know what a cop is and what a cop does. 3 weeks ago, cold, 2.5 feet of snow out from previous snowstorms. 1:30 in the morning, my son calls me, he's stuck 4 houses down from his home in an abandoned driveway. Says he got run off the road. I go over, and my truck is not big enough to unstick him. I said, is that proper? To get him out of the where he was stuck. 2 records go by. We try to flag him down. It doesn't work. Here comes 2 police officers. 2 white police officers, because we don't have black police officers. We talked for maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes. Next thing I know, they have my son down on the ground, 1:30 in the morning, face down in all that snow, cuffing him. He has a prosthetic leg. He also is from the military. Granted, he has PTSD. He's PTSD. He was the first one to graduate from the Genesee County PTSD, the school, the Veterans Court. I asked what's happening because they had been talking to us and they're arresting him. He was maybe 20 feet away from me. Now the cop that's talking to me wants to search my truck. Now I have an SUV. The door's been up all this time. Lights on in the SUV. He's been talking to me for 5, 10, 15 minutes. And he wants to search my vehicle. And I said, no, why? He didn't give me an answer. Then he says, I'm going to frisk you. Now I am humiliated. I'm really hurt about this. Letting my son see me frisked by some little, excuse my language, some little punk cop. That he did it because I was black, and he did it because he could, for no other reason. I let him frisk me, and he says, don't lock your arm, because then I'll have to arrest you for resisting arrest. Is that the bell for me? The ding dong? All right, I'm going to ding dong on out of here. But I want to say to this community, we need black police officers. I've talked to the chief. I've been there twice. We have another meeting this week with the chief. I do. He's been very helpful so far. But we have to do something. We need to do something to get some black police officers here. That'll help stop the stigmatization that the blacks have, that we're a racist society. And that'll help curtail that if you have some black police officers. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Sippert, I know that we've had other discussions about this issue, and when you meet with the Tellises, I'd like to be there also. And I don't know if we want to include the others we've already talked to in regards to that, but we'll get together on that. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board?
Well, you can relax and sit back. This is not going to be your typical 180 seconds from hell. Just to tell the...
What's your name? What's your name?
Harold Pauly, you know
Harold
it.
Pauly, 1051 Cabot Drive.
I forgot you.
I apologize.
Hold on, start the clock over, will you?
Just a message to the Flint Township residents. If you want your local roads improved, vote for Flint Township road millage. It's the only way your local roads will be improved. There's not 1 cent of money. If this sales tax increase does pass, there still is not 1 penny, not 1 cent of money in there that's going to be used for your local roads. And once again, don't vote for the sales tax increase, and I'll debate any one of you that would like to debate that session. I was going to talk about panhandlers and thieves tonight, but this gentleman talked about his experience with the police, and I've probably put this on the back burner because I always keep running out of my 180 seconds. The way Flint Township is set up is no different than Ferguson, Missouri, and we are sitting in a position where all it's going to take is one incident to happen, because this board basically does not oversee the police department, just like it did in Ferguson. If you looked at Missouri and Ferguson and St. Louis Township and seen how they were set up, we're similar. And Chief, it's to your detriment, because this board is out of touch with its citizens, and the police department is out of touch with its citizens. I can relate, just like this gentleman did. I was given a summons for stopping for a red light. I was told I should have ran the red light. Now, do you think I would have got a summons for that? I didn't even go to court because of that, because I didn't want to see this policeman ever again face to face. And this is the gentleman that called me incompetent. But this is kind of the culture that Flint Township is living under. And we need to change this. But even subsequently, it used to be that we were reactive and punitive. But now we have come to the point of basically criminalizing everything, because of this summons I was given. I also found out that the state of Michigan mandated to my insurance company that they had to increase my insurance premium for a period of 3 years, which I'm looking at as 3 years paid probation, and with no really good reason. But anyway, my time is up, but I'll tell you what, Flint Township has serious issues. And by the way, my list is there, okay? The first 5 items I brought up on my list to improve this township, none of them, you folks don't get it. You absolutely do not get it.
Thank you, Mr. Pauly. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board?
Morley Beisman, 1119 Woodcrest Drive. I have been a resident of this township about 43 and a half years. There is no one that has more seniority than me except Mr. Menudas. I think I remember things as well as George does, perhaps. But I recently watched a township meeting on Channel 18, public television or something. I was pretty disgusted with the whole thing. I was an integral working part of this township for a long time, and I've seen many boards come and go. I want you to know nothing has changed over all the boards, from Mr. Shoemaker, who I think was the first township officer, supervisor that I can remember. No, there was somebody before that. But anyways, it doesn't matter. The audience is the same, the complaints are the same, different words, for the most part, different people, but some of them are still the same people from 40 years ago, I think. But it's really not very nice to watch and look at. We're not going to change anything. We got to get together and work things out together, and that's what you're supposed to be doing. I pay my taxes, I cooperate as best I can. I'm too old now to get too excited about things, and I've gotten more mellow. Try to work together. You can't work with people who are pretty ridiculous in their comments and stuff, but do the best you can with those who can speak out and help us to help ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin Stiff, 5307 Maple Tree. For a couple people that pronounce my name wrong, I might be a write-in candidate at some point in time, so it's Stiff, S-T-I-F-F. A couple of questions. I've called down the township here someplace between 9 and 12. I did leave a message for Kim, and Tracy's office did call me back. But often, nobody answers the phone between 9 and noon when you call here. It is very seldom does anybody pick the phone up. Now, you guys might be really busy. I don't like leaving messages. I seen a near miss accident. I called here a couple times, didn't leave a message. I called I called the county road commission, and I wish Mr. Daly was here. I spent 25 minutes on the phone, was passed between 3 of their offices, and then was told that Corona Road is a state road. So they basically said, it's not our problem. Right in front of the O'Reilly's auto parts store is a bump. And a young man on a moped hit that bump and completely came off that moped. And I'll bet you he had to go home and change something, because he almost ran into the side of a car. That's how close of an accident he had. And if he would have been run over. And so when I talked to the county road commission, they could have cared less. And I was switched to another department, which they could have cared less, and I was switched to another department. And then I finally called out to the state road commission out in Davison, which could have cared less. That's what our tax money is going for. People that could care less about what's going on. And for everybody here in this audience, you should get online and you should read articles. I have read close to 30 articles on the proposal. And there is so much that none of us see in the newspapers, that this money is not going to go to anybody. It is going back in the coffers, and we're not going to see any money. The townships is not going to see it. We're not going to see it. You all should open up your eyes and get online and read what is happening to our money, because we're not going to see it. The townships aren't going to see it, and you guys aren't going to have any any monies for the roads. So, but anyways, there is a bump right in front of O'Reilly's Auto Parts that desperately needs to be fixed before somebody on a motorcycle or somebody on a moped gets hurt.
It's where they tapped in, and last year they filled it with some patch, and it's down again.
And let me tell you something, that kid, I bet you he went home, so.
Anyone else like to address the board?
Phyllis Patterson, 1127 Sussex Lane.
Can you repeat your last name, please?
Patterson, 2 T's.
Thank you.
I was coming home today, and I stopped by my neighbor's, and she was upset. She received a notice for her water bill that it was going to be shut off on the 9th because she hadn't paid for 3 months. She had arrangements or something she was making. Her mom went down and paid for it. But the notice, she showed me the notice, and it was dated turn off for the 9th. They turned it off today. Why would you send, and she got it out the mailbox today. Why would, see, it's like the one person said, you don't care. The 9th, 3 days from now, and you turn the water off. I just want to take her reason why that happened.
I don't have that answer. Treasurer Benelli's in charge of the water department, but we deal with 13,000 accounts. I do know that. I do know that when there's a late due bill, it goes to another department. It could have been a quick, a lack of communication, but if that resident or you would like to come in and talk to the woman who does those, we can figure out what happened.
You know, actually, she called the lady that handles the water, but it was time for her to be off, and she was walking out the door. I mean, she got 3 kids, and she's by herself, you know, one income, and her water was shut off. And she said she was like washing her hair or something, all of a sudden, bam, it was off. They told her to go to the place that turned the water off.
The county does that?
Yeah, so she went down there and showed them the letter, and they told her they don't see why it was turned off, and told her if she would have saw the person turning the water off and showed them the date that was on the notice that she got, they wouldn't have done it. Now she got to pay $50 for a turn-on fee. Is the township going to pay for that? Because it really wasn't her fault.
We'll take care of that. If she comes in, you ask her to come in, we'll work with her.
Who does she need to talk to?
She can come talk to me or Marcia or Tracy.
When tomorrow?
It's right here, Marcia Benelli.
Marcia? Okay.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board? No? Hearing no further, seeing no further commenters, we'll move on to action items. We're going to move action item D up to the beginning. And we have Janice Karcher here from the Genesee Regional Chamber of Commerce. She is Vice President there of Economic Development. And Janice was here, it was 3 years ago already, when you made the presentation the first time when we joined the I-69 trade corridor with NMDC. So I'll ask you to talk to our board.
Thank you, Supervisor Miller. Again, my name is Janice Karcher. I'm the Vice President of Economic Development at the Flint and Genesee Chamber. We have countywide charge and work with all of our municipalities across the county to support economic development. One of the opportunities that came before us was actually a 4-county partnership that was an optional partnership for our local municipalities. And in collaboration with Bishop International Airport and 9 other communities around Genesee County, Flint Township joined that partnership, and it's created an opportunity for us to market Flint and Genesee and our assets in a different way as part of that regional message, which has led to some new business opportunities that we may have not otherwise had a chance to compete for. We're also finding that it's positioned us really well for things heating up in the economy, and as I think many are seeing in the community, we're starting to see a reduction of the unemployment rate. We really hope that it also creates an opportunity for folks who've been discouraged and haven't been part of that unemployment count and in the workforce to come back into the workforce, because many of the companies we're working with are in a hiring mode again. And so there are a lot of jobs out there that don't require 4-year degrees that are open and posted, and a number of them are located here in Flint Township and are experiencing growth. So your participation in the I-69 International Trade Corridor in its 4th year gives you an opportunity to collaborate with communities in Shiawassee, Lapeer, and St. Clair counties. We are beginning to be recognized as one of the strongest regional partnerships in the state, and as a matter of fact, we were contacted recently by some regional collaborations in other states in the U.S. asking us to explain how the partnership came together and what some of the benefits have been, which have been quite significant. And so we invite Flint Township to continue in that partnership. We really appreciate having Tracy Tucker stand in for Supervisor Miller when she's not able to be there personally. But again, it's resulted in new opportunities for the collaborative partners within Genesee County as part of that 4-county partnership.
So we've had a 3-year contract to be a member, and that has expired. We were a member in 12, 13, and 14. And before you, you have a request for membership for this next year. But we can look at passing this 1-year contract, or we can do another 3-year contract as we did before. And whatever we do, we need to make a budget amendment along with this motion, because it was not budgeted for in the 2015 budget. So do we have any questions for Janice this evening regards to moving forward? No? We're going to vote on this in a second, but I wanted to thank you for being here and addressing our board this evening.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Thank you for your assistance too. With it's a big endeavor.
It is, and it's a great partnership with Flint Township, and you've got a lot of assets, and you're obviously very strategically located next to the airport and along I-69. That gives you some big opportunity for growth right now and in the future.
Thank you, Janice. So a motion would be in order to move forward, whether we do a 1-year contract, and I recommend we do a 3-year contract, so we don't have to do this the next 2 years. But does anyone want to move to do so?
I shall move. Oh, go ahead.
Well,
They've invoiced us for 1 year. I don't see any reason why we can't do every year
Okay.
on its own. I move to approve our participation for 2015 at a fee of $3,000.
And are you including the budget amendment in that motion?
Yes, and to make the necessary amendment to the budget.
Support.
And we have a second to that motion? Is there any, thank you. Is there any questions or discussion?
I guess I would like to ask, is this the same amount that we've been paying? Same amount, okay.
No other discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call, please, on approving the 1-year contract with a budget amendment for the year 2015, for I-69 corridor and MDC.
Ms. Spinelli?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Scorch, yes. Mr. Castle?
Yes.
Mr. Menudas?
Yes.
Mrs. Burt?
Yes.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, and thanks again for being here this evening. So action item A is to, for this board to consider adopting proposal declaring Stand Up for Transportation Day. And this comes from Mass Transit Authority, and I'll briefly read the letter, which you have in front of you, from MTA. Dear Supervisor Miller, on April 9th, 2015, transportation agencies across the country, will collectively call attention to the state of our transportation infrastructure by holding a Stand Up for Transportation Day. The day will be used for national education and outreach to the public and our elected officials. The goal is to raise awareness for the nation's long-term transportation infrastructure funding plight. What we are requesting is that the township sign a proclamation for Stand Up for Transportation Day. I'm attaching a draft of the proclamation the MTA would like your township to sign. Can you assist us by establishing a proclamation for April 9th, Stand Up for Transportation Day? And then you see it's from Charlene Kowalski, Director of Marketing from MTA. And if we want to approve this resolution, or proclamation, a motion would be in order to do so.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those any further discussion? All those in favor of declaring Stand Up for Transportation Day on April 9th signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. That passes. We move on to action item B is to, you have before you the Genesee County Road Commission Dust Control Program. And you see it's the question of do we want to do 2 or 3? And I know that this board has voted to do 3 applications. They come around the holidays, Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day, even though you see something different. Last year, we only had 2 applications because of the weather, and they didn't get out till toward June to do the first one. And so they did a second one later in the summer, and there was not a 3rd application given the inclement weather. So I just draw your attention to the 3 applications. The first application is paid 50% by the Road Commission, 50% by the township. The second application would be paid by the township, and the 3rd application would be paid by Genesee County Road Commission. We talked to our supervisor, Terry Burns, out of the Swartz Creek Garage, and he recommends doing an application of 38% calcium chloride at a spread rate of 2,000 gallons per mile, because that's what's going to be best for those gravel and dirt roads. So a motion would be in order to approve us paying for the second application for a total of 3 applications this coming summer, and at a spread rate of 2,000 gallons per mile rather than 1,500. And anybody can move to do so.
I have a motion to go ahead with that, go forward.
38%, 2,000 gallon spread rate, and we'll do 3 applications.
Yes.
Is there a second to that?
I'll support.
Any further questions or discussion?
I have a question. And this is coming from road millage funds?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you.
I do have a question. I guess it's been this way for a while, somebody told me, but if we're having 3 applications, I don't understand why we should split the first one 50-50. We pay for the second one, and the road commission pays for the third one. Seems to me it would make more sense to split it 50-50 down the line. And what happened last year is we didn't get the third one. We paid for the second one ourselves, and the one that the road commission was supposed to pay for, we never got. So
Last year, we paid for one, the road commission paid for one, and we paid for one.
What?
That's how, we were billed for one, the road commission paid for one. I know what the paperwork said. We were billed for one, and they paid for one.
You said that we only had 2 applications last year.
The road commission paid for one, and we paid for one.
Okay, but this one says that...
It's different.
It's 50-50 for the first one.
Which is
And the road commission, and we pay for the second one in full, and then the road commission pays for the third. This doesn't make sense for me.
I understand that, and
They're changing the parameters here.
They
and
are.
I think someone ought to discuss with them
Well,
why this is.
I asked Terry, I said, what if we only get 2? I said, we're not paying 50% and then paying for a second one, and they're not paying for any. We won't get charged for, we'll split the cost of the first one. If they don't get to the second one, they'll get to the third one, because the first and the second one will be too close. The road commission will pay for it. Clayton Township already did that. They're not paying for the second one. I know it sounds...
I'm not understanding what you're telling me. So try to explain that, and then maybe in clearer terms.
The first application is going to come around Memorial Day. There will be an application of calcium chloride, and we will split that cost.
Okay?
So then we have the rest of the summer. If we have 1 more, they're going to pay for it. If we have 2 more, we each pay for 1. I've already talked to him about it.
That's not what this says, though. This is not
I
what
see
we're
what that
signing here.
says.
So why doesn't
This
it
is-
says what the deal is?
This is coming from the billing department over at the road commission. The man who puts the applications on with his road crew, if the weather is inclement, we'll skip the second treatment. We won't pay for that. We'll get the third treatment, which to me is a second treatment, but he said that's how it's set up over there. It doesn't make sense to me either. I'm just relaying, I'm the messenger here.
Well, I don't vote yes on something that doesn't make any sense. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me, and it still doesn't make any sense to me. And I think it ought to be cleared up.
Did you want to do that? That's all the information they're giving me.
No, I don't want to do that. That's your job to do it. You're the supervisor. Handle it.
So we have a motion on the table. Is there any further discussion? No? Madam Clerk, roll call, please, on approving the dust chloride program.
Yes. Mr. Castle?
You said yes?
I just said yes, me, Mrs. Courts, yes. I figure she'll figure it out, so yes. Mr. Castle?
No.
Mr. Menudas?
Yes.
Mrs. Burt?
Yes.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
Ms. Benelli?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Action item C, Madam Clerk.
I read yours. Consider approval of 2015 annual participation, consider approval of authorized signature cards for the Community Development Block Grant Program. I think we do this every 3 years, and we have to just place our signatures on the signature cards for approval for the Community Development Program. There's no changes. It's the same individuals on the signature cards. I would motion that we approve those signatures, being me, my treasurer, Lori Donovan.
Your deputy clerk.
Treasurer, Marcia Benelli, Lori Donovan, and Tracy Tucker.
Deputy treasurer.
Yes,
Okay,
those four.
Is the controller on there? No?
No.
Just you four? Okay.
That's correct.
So we have a motion. Is there a second to the motion?
Support.
Any further discussion? Any questions? Hearing none. All those in favor of the four names, clerk, courts, deputy clerk Lori Donovan, treasurer Benelli, and deputy treasurer Tracy Tucker, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Action item E is to consider approval of the lease pull-ahead program for the Patsy Lou Automotive Group for 3 Chevrolet LS Cruise vehicles. So, let me get to that E. We leased 3 vehicles 3 years ago, and we had 10,000 miles a year on each vehicle. And I was asking in the building department how many miles were on the other 2. On the Cruise that I use in the supervisor's department, and the assessor's department uses it sometimes too, there's 12,000 miles, which is pretty low, but I didn't get how much is on the building department. Anyway, we get 10,000 miles a year. So currently we're paying $269 a month. And you can see in this proposal, it would be $350 at signing and $250 per month per cruise. So motion would be in order to move ahead with the lease pull-ahead program.
This is in the budget too.
Oh, and it is budgeted.
You looking for a motion? I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further questions or discussion?
Do we need, are these leased too?
These 3 are leased.
So the lease is up, huh?
No, the lease is up in September. This is a lease pull-ahead.
Oh. So what does that, how is that to our advantage to pull ahead?
And less per month.
We're paying less per month?
Yep.
Paying $250. So these
$10 less a month per car, so it's about $30 a month less, because we have 3 cars.
What is it, 3 months pull ahead?
No.
Yeah, because it's due in
August?
September, so it would be approximately 4 months.
Huh?
Approximately 4 months.
So,
Well, that's a good deal as far as I'm concerned, $250 a month. You can't get much today.
so any further discussion? No? I don't know what color they are. I think they're gray.
What's that?
Said what color are they?
I'll vote on them. as
Go
long
right
as
ahead.
they're
What's-
not
Madam
gray.
Clerk, we have a motion and a second on the floor to proceed or go ahead with the lease pull-ahead program on the 3 LS Cruise vehicles.
Mr. Menudas?
Yes.
Mrs. Vert?
Yes.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
Ms. Benelli?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Cortez? Mr. Castle?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Action item F is
We
Oh,
added
we have
that.
enough, okay.
Chief Sippert, did you want to say anything?
Well, it's kind of self-explanatory. Officer Hill, who's been with us for 3 years, is resigning to take a position with another department, which is closer to where his wife works, so he's given us 2-week notice.
So do you want the board to accept his resignation? Is that what you're asking? Would someone like to move to do so?
A motion to accept the letter of resignation from Officer Hill with regrets.
Second.
Second. No further discussion? Madam Clerk? No, we're not going to do a roll call. All those in favor of accepting the resignation of Officer Glenn Hill with regret signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes and we're all set. Without objection and with no further business, we'll call this meeting adjourned.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds.